Good morning. Oh, that was nice. That was good. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone with us here in this space and to those joining us on Livestream. I am Dave Crady, and I am joined on the chancel this morning by our guest speaker, Michael Pappas, who is the Executive Director of the Interfaith Council. Thank you to our musicians today, who are going to be Maria Roodnitsky and Songleader Nancy Munn, and as always, the amazing Reiko Odelaine on the organ. Yeah, give it up for Reiko, making our services so beautiful each and every week. You want to give us a little wave, Reiko? Just yeah, there we go. All right, say hi to the people. Your adoring fan base is here for you once again. We hope that all of you here or on live stream have an order of service so you can follow along in worship. Thank you all for wearing your masks indoors. Michael and I COVID tested literally half an hour ago. We both came up negative. At coffee hour following the service, if you are outdoors or in the Thomas Starr King Room, you can remove your mask while drinking and eating. We do ask that everyone remain masked in our hallways, or what we call the gallery, so those are safe spaces for more vulnerable people. Everyone speaking or singing today who removes their mask has had a negative antigen test this morning. Thank you for your cooperation and helping us to keep everyone safe. Welcome to worship. Please join me as we say the words of our chalice lighting. Those of you who are joining us via live stream, if you have a chalice or candle available to light on your own, as we do, please do so. Let us say the words printed in our order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together. Thank you. All right, and let us rise in body and spirit as we are able to sing together our opening hymn, which is number 298 in the gray hymnals. Nancy, it's your turn. If this is your first time watching or joining us in person, I would like to welcome you to UUSF. If you want to get our weekly newsletter, The Flame, or get emailed a reminder about Sunday's Livestream link, you can fill out one of our connection forms, which are available throughout the chapel. They're on the welcome table outside the sanctuary, or available through a link in the order of service or in the video description. The YouTubers are always like, it's down below, so that's where it is, people watching at home. The order of service also lists upcoming events and links to opportunities to connect. Please engage in any or all that are of interest to you. We do have signups for our food pantry services out in the hallway today. Also, I would like to invite Linda Harris up to make a special announcement today. Everyone, please welcome Linda to the stage.
Good morning. My name is Linda Harris, and I'm our congregation's local representative for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. I invite you to join us this Sunday in celebrating the work of the UUSC, our UU Human Rights and Environmental Justice organization, by participating in the In-Gathering for the Guest at Your Table program and making other donations for the benefit of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. I urge you to read the insert in your order of service to find out more about this program and the work of the UUSC. I was very fortunate to be able to meet representatives of several of the grassroots groups that UUSC partners with at this fall's UUSC Stewardship Council meeting. Given the complexities of the problems facing our world, I can't begin to describe in this brief announcement how impressed I was with this brave and creative group of people from around the world who are working innovatively and effectively with the support of the UUSC. Marty Vanderlaan and I would be more than happy to talk with you further about them and the UUSC at their table after the service in the hall. Today, during the offertory, we'll be collecting any guest at your table boxes that you may have brought with you. You can also use the envelopes in the order of service for credit card donations and checks for the total contents of your boxes, as well as to make other donations for the work of the UUSC. Today's entire offertory will benefit the work of the UUSC. If you put your name and contact information on either the envelope or the inside of the box, then any donation will get you membership in the UUSC, and I urge you to do that because you'll get ongoing information about their very interesting work and inspiring work. Donations of $150 or more will be matched dollar for dollar by the UU congregation at Shelter Rock. I urge you to be generous and thank you in advance for your support of the UUSC and its vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. That concludes our announcements for today. So now we will take a moment to greet one another, after which we will say our covenant and sing our doxology, so you can just remain standing the whole time. This is the risen portion of the show. So please feel free to rise and greet one another now, as we are in community together. That's my wish. Please join me in our spoken covenant and sung doxology. Feel free to rise in body and spirit as you are able. We will begin with the covenant. The words are printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in freedom, and to help one another. Myself and the other worship associates were asked to reflect upon sacred texts that we have returned to throughout our lives. When given this task, the problem for me personally was that I was raised what could generously be called very secular. Sacred texts were not a huge part of my upbringing at all, so I struggled a bit to find something that prior to UUSF was a regular ritual in my life. And I eventually landed, when I was young, prior to working as a comedian, I was involved heavily in the poetry slam and spoken word community. It greatly changed the course of my life, set me off on a journey to doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of the isms I had learned throughout growing up where I did and in the way I did. And I wanted to share with you excerpts from a poem that means a lot to me. It's called The Ritual. I'm going to read approximately the last half of it. It is by a writer who, when I first met her, was living in Seattle and I was living in Minneapolis. But if you want to know more about her, her name is Denise Jolly, and she actually lives here in San Francisco now. So here is an excerpt from The Ritual by Denise Jolly. If you have ever bled sunrise and called it relief, I have compiled a list of 10 truths I want you to know, that I promise I am still trying to learn myself. 1, you are better than a story about what not to do. 2, you are living in response to your upbringing, which means your children will live in response to how you raise them. What do you most want to teach them? 3, somewhere tonight there is a woman praying for you, wishing she were your mother. She knows you might hear her differently if she were. Do not shun her prayer. Let it crowbar your liquid shoulders. We all have rusted parts. 4, be more than a patina lawn decoration for the wealthy. 5, some of us have to choose new places to come from. Do not worry. You will not forget what came before that. It lives in the fearful cower you'll fight daily. 6, in the moments you forget someone loves you, pretend that somewhere across the vast blue of your compulsion there are continents of optimist hearts. 7, we humans do get what we ask for. 8, please stop asking to be rewounded. You have yourself branded scars that will not disappear with the skin slack of old age. 9, Most days, our bodies are temple wars. Honoring them holy is as much a practice as breathing. 10. Get in the habit of affirming that you are holy with each breath. Brave words like loved and beautiful say, I am holy. My walls are that of a temple. I am sacred. Sacred does not mean pristine. I am beautiful. I am landslide and crater shake. I am human in all the faults that build me. I am loved. If this feels wrong or foreign, that is okay. Sail on the violence of its awkward, court it as your new addiction, and breathe. Thank you. We shall now have music coming from Maria Roodnitsky, who is joining us right over there. Welcome, Maria. Thanks for joining us today.
We will call this place our home, the dirt in which our roots may grow, though the storms will push and pull. We will call this place our home. We'll tell the stories on these walls. Every year measure how tall, and just like a work of art, we'll tell our stories on these walls. Let the years we're here be kind, be kind. Let our hearts like doors open wide, and let the bonds like wood over time, give us bread, give us hope, give us wine. A little broken, little new, we are the impact and the glue, capable of more than we know, to call this fixer our home. With each year our color fades, slowly our paint chips away, and we'll find the strength and the nerve it takes to repaint and repaint and repaint every day. Let the years we're here be kind, be kind. Let our hearts like doors open wide, settle our bones like wood over time. Give us bread, give us hope, give us wine. Smaller than dust on this map lies the greatest thing we have, the dirt in which our roots can grow, and the right to call it home.
Thank you, Maria. That was lovely. I shall now read from Proverbs. When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. By justice, a king gives his country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. Those who flatter their neighbors are spreading nets for their feet. Evildoers are snared by their own sin, but the righteous shout for joy and are glad. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. Mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away anger. If a wise person goes to court with a fool, the fool rages and scoffs, and there is no peace. The bloodthirsty hate a person of integrity and seek to kill the upright. Fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. If a ruler listens to lies, all his officials become wicked. The poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight of eyes to both. If a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever. A rod and a reprimand impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces its mother. When the wicked thrive, so does sin, but the righteous will see their downfall. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire. A people without vision shall perish, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. I would like to welcome our guest today, Michael Pappas, leader of the Interfaith Council, to join us on the chancel now. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Wonder Dave, and thank you for taking some pressure off of me, because the passage that I have chosen for the meditation is also secular. You heard a very peculiar sacred text passage today. This was by intention. That text and this meditation and the hymn we will hear will all be pointing to the sermon theme, "A people without vision shall perish." What I'm about to read you, I'm going to take you back in time to January 17th, 2014, sort of to remind us that the pendulum of life swings regularly and rather dramatically here in our city. These words are not my own. These words were the conclusion of the State of the City address of our former mayor, Ed Lee of blessed memory. And I found them to be very touching and very telling about who we are as a city and who we can be. And so I would invite you to take a moment to get comfortable. Those of you who would like to close your eyes, I will take you to the shipyard in the Bayview Hunters Point on January 17th, 2014, 2 years after a great recession. Tech has come here. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we can do it, because in the relatively short life of our city, we have faced and overcome even more daunting challenges. And I'm not just talking about earthquakes and pandemics. From the gold rush to the building of the railroad, through wars, liberation movements, the AIDS crisis, and the dot-com boom, the story of San Francisco is one of rapid spurts of growth. It's a story of new industries and movements that brought new waves of people, all seeking the better life and opportunities that San Francisco, more than most places, has always represented. Over time, our growing city covered the hills. We grew west and south, turning cemeteries and sand dunes into neighborhoods like the Western Addition, the Richmond, and the Sunset. Today, we grow again in places like the Shipyard, the New Trans Bay District, or along our eastern waterfront in places like Mission Rock or Pier 70. And whether it was the Irish who came here to pan for gold, the Chinese who came to work on the railroad, the African Americans who came to work in the shipyards, Latinos who fled civil war at home in search of work, or gay, lesbian, and transgender people who came seeking freedom and self-expression, with each wave of newcomer has come a degree of tension. But, my fellow San Franciscans, our city has never been a postcard frozen in time. We have never been a city that closed our borders and slam shut the door of opportunity to those who came here after us. And when we've tried to keep people out or demonized and stereotyped a group of people, they have been our ugliest and most shameful chapters. And so today, as our population once again grows in numbers and our skyline grows upwards, I call upon the quality and the tenor of our civic discussion to grow up as well. My friends, keeping this city a place where everybody can live, whether you've been here for 60 years or 60 days, is the fundamental challenge of our time. But it is a challenge we must confront together. As usual, it was Dr. King who said it best. We may have come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. It's a challenge we confront by ensuring every San Franciscan who can work has a job. It's a challenge we confront by ensuring every San Franciscan can afford to stay here and raise a family. And it's a challenge we confront by improving our schools, our public transportation system, and keeping our streets safe. We are one city where we celebrate the success of all of our residents, and we all share in the responsibility to help those still left behind. It's the same city where thousands will turn out to cheer a little kid named Miles who conquered cancer and then came to live out his superhero dreams as Bat Kid. And to the newcomers, to the young people who have come here, like so many generations before you, to find opportunities, I say, get involved. You are now a part of this city and must be part of the solution. Acknowledge your impact and make it a good one. Understand that the homeless man you see sleeping in the doorway probably once thought he was invincible too, but then made mistakes or fell on hard times, and that one day you may too. Volunteer at your local school. Help clean up your local park. Respect the history and the cultures of those who were here before you. Shop and eat in your neighborhood and break bread with your neighbors. Because it turns out that San Francisco changes us more than any group of newcomers will ever change San Francisco. It opens our eyes and our minds to new ideas and new ways of thinking. And that, my friends, is what makes this place so special and keeps us at the cutting edge of this century as much, if not more so, than the last. My fellow San Franciscans, we have come a great distance these last few years, but there are still too many in our city we must lift up, and too many we must still help to ensure that this will always be their city too. Our work is far from done. Nelson Mandela taught the world a thing or two about bridging divides and bringing people together. And he reminded us that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. We may take a moment to rest and to look back at the distance we have come, but only for a moment. We have responsibilities, and we dare not linger. Our long walk together is not yet ended. Let us go forward together in 2014 to keep the state of our city vital and strong, and to ensure that San Francisco remains a place where everyone can afford to call home. And here he concludes.
Please take a moment to pause and reflect silently. We will now begin today's offering. This morning's offering will benefit the work and ministries of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Linda Harris spoke about them earlier. They are the longest-running fundraising and educational program for our congregations. Many members of our congregation and UU congregations across the country have kept guests at your table boxes on their dining tables or other family gathering spots from Thanksgiving to New Year's. We fed those boxes with donations on a daily basis to support the work of UUSC and our human UU rights and social justice organization. There is a link in your order of service if you wish to donate virtually. If you want to join local UUSC activists, contact Linda Harris, who you saw earlier today. You can speak to her out in the hallway as well. To make a donation on Vanco, you can go to bit.ly/UUSF-payments. Or if you're watching us virtually, there's a donate button below as well as on our website. Please select offering as the choice to make your gift. If you are sending a check, please mark in the memo today's date and special offering 1/8/23. The offering will now be both given and gratefully received as Maria gives us more music. Oh, and she is joined by another human being whose name I don't have in my order. I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get it later. He's also very important and special, and we're thrilled to have him here today. Thank you. Please enjoy and give generously.
Well, she gave me the big C letter and I don't think I will. Cinco al estoy, turn left at Gilroy, head up on 280. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. You see, I lived with an actress to be. She was amazingly lifelike. I spent a year in LA. It's hard to believe I've been missing that turnpike. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. Down in the Mission and up in Half Moon Bay, Franklin Hill. I wonder if she's still down in the Mission. And so I heard the song of the big senorita. The world is falling by degrees. Cinco al estoy, turn left at Gilroy, and head up on 280. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. Down in the Mission and up in Half Moon Bay, Franklin Hill. I wonder if she's still down in the Mission. I'm gonna stay high, lie low, San Francisco. I'm gonna stay high.
In our next hymn, Let There Be Peace on Earth, which is Jill Jackson's prayer. She said after this song was acclaimed worldwide that the words came to her and literally saved her life. The music was written by her husband, Cy Miller, and the copyright has been given freely, which so impresses me as a musician. So please rise as you can and join me in Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Before I begin the sermon, I just wanted to let you know I stand here with a grateful heart. And I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you. And to this beautiful community of the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco. My name is Michael Pappas, and for the past 15 years, I've been blessed to serve as the executive director of the San Francisco Interfaith Council. This community is no stranger to either me or to the council, and I have known so many of your ministers who have served here faithfully and with great devotion. And I want to say thank you to you also for hosting for almost 34 years the Interfaith Winter Shelter, which is the core mission and ministry of the Interfaith Council. I'd also like to say thank you to Vanessa Rush Southern, your beautiful and gifted senior minister, who not only is yours, but you share her with the council. She is the chairman of our board, and she is a colleague and a friend, and someone who has really contributed greatly to the interfaith life and the civic life of our community. Now, with all of this said, and at the risk of compromising the decorum of this beautiful and historic sanctuary, for those who would indulge me for a moment, would you mind rising? I want to remember this day. My kids taught me how to take selfies. So I would ask if you feel comfortable taking the hand of the person next to you or just reaching up into the heavens, and let's immortalize this moment together with a selfie. We did it. You'll be immortalized on Facebook. No disclaimers. The one thing I wanted to ask too, because I always felt like worship should be engaging. And the theme, you're gonna hear a refrain over and over and over in this sermon. I will return to decorum. And that refrain is, a people without vision shall perish. Okay, a people without vision shall perish. And I'm just gonna point to you when I say, and a people without vision shall. If you can help me with the sermon, I'll know that we're together, and it will make the experience, at least for me, a better one, and hopefully for you. Okay, a return to decorum. A people without vision shall. These profound words from the 29th chapter of the book of Proverbs in the Hebrew sacred text brought to a close this morning's readings. I intentionally chose them as the central theme of this morning's sermon because they are prophetically critical in these uncertain times and in this complex place. Just a week ago today, as both individuals and as a community of people, we rang in a new year with all of its rituals. I would submit that this annual rite of bidding farewell to the year past and greeting the new year with all of its hopes and possibilities is never experienced quite the same by any two people. On the one end of the spectrum, there are those who cannot imagine celebrating New Year's unless they are surrounded by the masses, popping champagne corks at midnight and partying until dawn. These are those who diligently plan for the event in advance and engage others to join them in their revelry. On the other end of the spectrum are those who, for their own valid reasons, are alone, often in bed by 9, and elect not to subscribe to the pressures of societal norms. For many in this camp, the passage of yet another year is but a grim reminder that our finite existence on this earth is marching closer to an end. In between these polar opposites is every nuance imaginable. The only thing I suspect they all have in common, if only subconsciously, is a haunting obligation to make some sort of personal New Year's resolution, no matter how quickly it might be abandoned, to enrich their personal and spiritual lives, their relationships, and the community in which they live. For in the back of their minds, at some level, either they hold those convictions or fear that, as the proverb warns, a people without vision shall. What is daunting about making New Year's resolutions for the year 2023 is that for almost 3 years, the very context and foundation of our thinking and being has been upended. We're not sure, but we believe that we've weathered the worst of a once-in-a-century global pandemic. a shocking crisis that has frightened us, catalyzed us to grieve loss of both loved ones and the masses in ways unimaginable, forced us into isolation, which for many has led to depression, ripped the scab off broad and deep wounds, exposing long-standing economic, racial, gender, and generational divisions that have plagued society far longer than this pandemic. The haves seemingly able to endure, the have-nots forced to, if not falling off, the precipice of their very existence. At the beginning of COVID, we witnessed firsthand the great divide of just who had access to personal protective equipment, testing, services, then vaccines and needed care. In the frenetic daily progression of this disease, we saw existing political division expand and the interpretation of critical news mirror that great divide. In our own city of San Francisco, the restaurants we once loved shuttered. Our bustling and vibrant tourism, tech sector, transit, real estate, cultural, and social life became a shadow of their prior selves. Their demise had a domino effect. Their revenue loss, a relied-upon tax base, profoundly devastated the philanthropic efforts of our city's cadre of nonprofits, those on the front lines providing essential services for San Francisco's most vulnerable residents. 3 years later, as we suffered COVID fatigue, wishing it would all just go away, people we know are still testing positive. What's worse, as much as we long, at some level, we realize that we cannot return to the life we once knew, the comfort and the security we once held as normal. Yes, it is on this cheery note, and with this stark reminder of the personal and collective trauma that we've endured, that in January 2023, we are being called to make New Year's resolutions for ourselves, how we will engage with those around us, and the greater society. It is on this cheery note, and with this stark reminder of the personal and collective trauma that we have endured, that we are haunted by that proverb, a people without vision shall. How, we might ask ourselves, can we make such resolutions? Where do we even start? Some are muttering under their breath, at this point, I can barely take care of myself. How am I expected to care for others, no less the greater society? To that, I would remind you that you are good Unitarian Universalists. You possess a rich interfaith spirituality that you need to harness at this critical time. In this very sanctuary, just now, we sung together at the top of our lungs that treasured interfaith anthem, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." Having myself been reared in the Orthodox Christian faith, I'm reminded of a similar calling by a Russian saint, Seraphim of Sarov, who wisely asserted, "Acquire the spirit of peace, and a multitude around you shall be saved." In a recent San Francisco Chronicle op-ed, commentator Keith Humphreys summed up the unique libertarian individualistic spirit of San Franciscans this way. Since at least the 19th century, Americans have come to San Francisco to be free of traditional constraints back east, to reinvent themselves, to escape the small-mindedness of small towns, and to find themselves. This culture underlies the city's entrepreneurialism, artistic energy, and tolerance for diversity in all forms. Foundationally, I think what Humphreys suggests is true, and if so, affirms that we San Franciscans could and should be heroes in the context of the proverb, as historically, our success as a city can be attributed to the fact that we are a people of vision. Why then do we seem to be stymied? More importantly, if allowed to persist, why will this uncharacteristic paralysis not only mar our reputation as a people and city of vision, but impede our ability to effectively innovate, set the agenda, meet the demands, and effectively contribute to a nation that secretly relies upon our ingenuity? As for the former, I would submit that we are stymied because this pandemic has understandably traumatized us on so many levels. We are a people in need of healing. We need to heal ourselves and care for one another. As people of faith, we are well positioned to do so. As fragile children of a higher and loving being, we're being called to come to terms with the trauma that we have endured. To do so, we will need to risk trusting in that loving higher being, trusting in ourselves, that higher being's creation, and trusting in one another. In essence, as people of faith, fragile children of that higher and loving being, we must come to the realization that to be fully healed, we cannot shoulder such an immense burden alone. To this point, I am reminded of the Catholic theologian Henry Nouwen's treasured little text I remember from seminary, The Wounded Healer. In it, he asserts that the only thing in this life that all human beings have in common is our woundedness. Only when we are able to risk coming to terms with our woundedness can we enter into the mystery of true healing. Nouwen goes on to suggest that once acquired, the depths of the realization of our woundedness may be empathetically conveyed to others wrestling with their woundedness, and that this conveyance has the effect of catalyzing that same mystery of healing in those who suffer with and around us. Thus, we hearken back to the lyrics of that profound interfaith anthem, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." And Seraphim of Sarov's words, "Acquire the spirit of peace, and a multitude around you shall be saved." In healing ourselves and those around us, we then possess the discernment and clarity to see beyond the legion of seemingly insurmountable personal and societal challenges that plague us and reclaim our vision, our greater vision. For remember, a people without vision shall? In the meditation offered earlier in the service, Mayor Lee painstakingly enumerated every wave of people who ever came to San Francisco and powerfully challenged us to be our better selves in welcoming the newcomer. In the course of that history, our city has experienced a series of booms and busts, adjusted and thrived by fearlessly recreating itself. In the course of these many iterations, we as San Franciscans have learned much about ourselves, grown in wisdom, and as a result, reached new plateaus with each new beginning, earning our reputation as leaders in innovation, creativity, and the promotion of cultural diversity and inclusivity. That visionary leadership is needed now more than ever. We know that we can heal. We know that we have it in us. What are we waiting for? Remember the proverb, "A people without vision shall?" Sadly, while we are waiting, short-sighted, self-serving, mean-spirited governors, lawmakers, and judges around this country are distorting the very spirit of freedom and justice, creating, passing, and interpreting laws such that those they have been entrusted to serve and protect are no longer able to be safe or their authentic selves. Running roughshod in the name of a distorted sense of morality, these governors, legislators, and judges could care less about the spiritual, emotional, physical, and economic damage they are inflicting upon fragile souls. This we've witnessed firsthand in the sad cases of undocumented political asylees used as pawns being sent to cities like our own to score political points. The countless other souls of whom I speak, our fellow citizens, those whose liberties are in serious jeopardy simply because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, and desire to make decisions regarding the health and well-being of their own bodies, these will soon become spiritual migrants in search of a safe place of refuge. Mayor Lee's reflection so powerfully reminded us San Francisco has long been the destination of waves of such refugees. The question before us today is this: in that great tradition of our city, do we San Franciscans of this age possess the spiritual health, fortitude, conviction, and yes, vision to welcome them? And if not, why? For remember, a people without vision shall. Having already addressed the why and the how to bring spiritual healing to ourselves and those around us, we must now address the elephant in the room: the collective societal paralysis that is standing in the way of reclaiming our vision as a great city. As alluded to earlier, a not so small part of that paralysis can be attributed to the pandemic's revelation of our city's deep-seated systemic inequities, compounded by a myriad of other unaddressed and now emerging social failures. The perfect storm, whose impact hit so quickly and with such intense rage that it knocked the wind out of us and left us overwhelmed. While leading the country in its public health response to the complexity of the COVID-19 pandemic, San Francisco found itself under the national media's microscope on every other issue, from the tech exodus to homelessness, from filthy and unsafe streets in the Tenderloin and other vulnerable neighborhoods to an emerging fentanyl epidemic, from skyrocketing real estate vacancies to the vandalism and looting of premium Union Square storefronts and everything in between. Once thought of to be the creme de la creme of cities, now with a bruised ego, we find ourselves scrambling to respond, scrambling to make things right. We don't like being perceived as anything less but the best. So obsessed are we with our image and the prospect of overcoming seemingly insurmountable multitude of crises that we can no longer see the forest from the trees. But they are just that, crises. Some, by the very mention of the word crisis, shut down and regress to a catatonic state. Closer examination of the word, however, suggests quite a different possibility. The word crisis is derived from the Greek root krino, which means having to render a judgment, having to make a decision. Best understood, it's like arriving at a fork in the road and having to decide which path to take. Paralysis is staying at the fork in the road and not deciding. The real call of a crisis is simply to decide which path to take. In reality, a crisis presents possibilities and opportunities. In reality, crises offer us the occasion to reclaim our vision. I am a sailor, a real estate developer repurposing a religiously owned parcel for affordable housing in this very neighborhood. In a recent presentation, kept referring to the project's obstacles and challenges and economic challenges as headwinds. As a sailor, I know that a tailwind increases the vessel's speed and reduces the time required to reach its destination, while a headwind has the opposite effect. Only after hearing his presentation and doing some research did I realize that the terms are also used metaphorically in business and elsewhere about circumstances where progress is made harder by a headwind or easier by a tailwind. Like that fork in the road, any seasoned sailor knows that trying to take on a headwind is akin to an exercise in futility. The next time I heard the presenter make this reference, my response was to advise him simply, adjust your sails and change course. Moving from paralysis to progress is really just as simple as that. Mustering the fortitude and the courage to make that decision in the midst of a crisis, however, requires vision. For as the proverb teaches us, a people without vision shall. As an organization founded 34 years ago in response to the homeless crisis and the Loma Prieta earthquake, the San Francisco Interfaith Council knows that crises are opportunities for miracles to occur. They have a strange way of bringing people together to offer the best that's in their DNA. Our council knows firsthand the power of our prophetic voice and ability to mobilize at critical times. We are guided by the collective vision of our diverse religious and spiritual traditions to speak truth to power at those appointed moments and to act decisively when called upon to do so. At the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we rose to the occasion and became the city's primary liaison, providing San Francisco's 800 communities of faith and religious institutions with the timely and credible information needed to make informed decisions on behalf of those entrusted to their care. From this perch, I could see and was convinced that we would be called upon to play a critical role not just in our city's response to the pandemic, but more importantly, in its recovery, as it forges the new and uncharted frontier of a new normal. Just as our communities of faith had the vision to so quickly and creatively adjust to new ways of worship and ministry, so too are they now called to harness all of the resources in their spiritual toolboxes to help navigate the faithful from isolation to connectivity, from fear and anxiety to a new place of trust, love, service, and relationship. This is our great calling at this profound hour. This is my New Year's prayer and, if you will, resolution as we sail into 2023. As people of faith, we are de facto people of vision. Let us then, with the help of that higher and loving being, discern the gift of that vision in ourselves. Let us abundantly inspire that vision in one another. Let us courageously and with conviction share that vision with the greater community, that in doing so, we as individuals may realize our full spiritual potential, know true healing and connectivity and love in our relationships with one another, and be effective instruments of creative and radical change in our quest for a more just and equitable society. Thank you, good people of vision. Happy New Year.
Would you join me in our closing hymn, number 139, Wonder Still the World Shall Witness? Stand as you are able. Thank you.
the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile upon you and be gracious upon you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. And the people of the greater being said, Amen.